Добрый день, Major. Rad videt. Our French intelligence confirms the Allied forces are developing two vehicle weapons. The phase transport and the chronotank. It is not in the Soviet interest that either of these weapons becomes operational. Do what you must. Steal the prototypes. Use the prototypes against the Allies. And keep them from using that chronotank. Iditai, go on.
Reinforcements have arrived.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. 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 Affirmative.
New construction options. Building. Construction complete. New construction options. Building. Construction complete. New construction options.
Vehicle report. Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Building.
Yes, sir.
Construction complete. Building. On hold. Cancel. Building. Construction complete. New construction options. Building. Training. Unit
Yes, sir.
ready.
Very well. At once.
Training.
Reporting. At once.
Unit
Agreed.
ready.
Yes, sir. Agreed. Acknowledged. At once. Agreed. Very well. Agreed.
Construction complete. New construction options.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Reporting. Very well. Very well. Very well. Very well. Acknowledged. Reporting.
Unit lost. Building. Our base is under attack. Insufficient
affirmative.
funds.
Yes, sir.
Training. Unit ready.
Awaiting
Affirmative.
orders.
Training.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit
At once.
ready.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit
Ready and
lost.
waiting. Acknowledged. Agreed. Affirmative. Of course. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Ready and waiting. At once. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Agreed. Very well. At once.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Training.
Reporting.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Comrade. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Vehicle report. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Vehicle
Unit
report.
ready.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Building.
Awaiting orders. Reporting. Ready and waiting.
Insufficient funds.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Base is under attack.
Acknowledged. Yes,
Construction
sir.
complete.
Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Comrade, affirmative.
New construction options.
Reporting. Agreed.
Building.
Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Report. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Construction complete. Building.
Comrade, affirmative. Acknowledged. Report. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Building.
Yes, affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Report.
Unit
Affirmative.
Prepare.
Yes, sir.
Construction
Acknowledged.
complete.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Cannot deploy here. New construction options.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Construction complete. New construction options. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Building.
Report. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Vehicle report. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Report. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Construction
Affirmative.
complete.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Our base is under
Affirmative.
attack.
Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit lost. On hold. Cancel. Prepare.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Structure sold.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Comrade. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
New construction
Report
options.
acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative.
Prepare.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Report. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Report. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Report. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Report. Affirmative.
Preparing. Construction complete.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building. Our
Acknowledged.
base is under attack. Insufficient funds.
Reporting.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Construction complete. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Preparing.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Acknowledged. Comrade. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Comrade. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Construction complete.
Affirmative.
New construction
Yes, sir.
options.
Affirmative.
Building.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Preparing.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Insufficient funds. Preparing.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Unit repaired.
Vehicle reporting. Waiting order. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Insufficient
Acknowledged.
funds.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Reporting. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Construction complete. Building. Construction complete. Repairing. Building. On hold. Cancel.
Comrade. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Building.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Report. Acknowledged.
On hold. Cancel. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting.
Unit ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Reporting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Vehicle report. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Insufficient
Vehicle reporting.
funds.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Yes,
Building.
sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building. Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Waiting. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Report. Affirmative. Affirmative. Waiting. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Yes, sir.
Insufficient funds.
Acknowledged.
Repairing.
Comrade. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Construction
Yes, sir.
complete. Insufficient funds. Repairing. Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Building.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Building. Unit repaired.
Acknowledged.
Preparing.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir. Comrade. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Insufficient funds.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Preparing.
Vehicle acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes,
Construction
sir. Acknowledged.
complete. Reconstruction options.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Preparing. Preparing.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Preparing.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Reporting.
Building. Our base is under
Vehicle
attack.
reporting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Waiting yes, order. Sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Awaiting acknowledged. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Preparing.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Vehicle acknowledged. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Vehicle affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yeah, okay.
prepared.
Yeah, okay, okay. Okay. Yeah.
Unit
Acknowledged.
lost.
Acknowledged.
Building.
Awaiting affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Unit
Affirmative.
prepared.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Vehicle affirmative. Reporting.
Preparing.
Reporting.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Vehicle report. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit prepared.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Report. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Preparing. Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Comrade. Affirmative. Affirmative. Vehicle reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Very well. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Insufficient funds.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Prepare.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Reporting.
Unit repaired.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Construction
Acknowledged.
complete. Cannot deploy here.
Awaiting orders. Reporting. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Select
Yes.
target.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Reinforcements have arrived.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Building.
Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged. Very well. At once. Vehicle reporting.
Building.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. At once. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Ready and waiting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Of course. At once. Very well.
Insufficient
Of
funds.
course. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Ready and waiting. Reporting. Very well.
Construction
Affirmative.
complete. Repairing. Unit ready.
Report acknowledged.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Report
Insufficient
acknowledged.
funds.
Acknowledged. Waiting orders. Affirmative. At once. At once.
Unit lost.
At once. Yes, affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Prepare.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Repairing.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit repaired.
Vehicle report. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Waiting for acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Repairing. Unit
sir.
ready. Building.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Unit
Affirmative.
prepared.
Waiting for orders. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Waiting order. Acknowledged. Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Awaiting
Unit
orders.
ready.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Waiting yes, order. Sir. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Prepare.
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Training.
Acknowledged.
Unit prepared.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Training.
Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit prepared.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. 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 Waiting order. Affirmative. Reporting. Acknowledged. Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged.
Training.
Reporting. Very well.
Unit
Waiting
ready.
affirmative.
Training.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit
Yes, sir.
ready.
Acknowledged.
Preparing.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Training. Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Preparing.
Agreed.
Construction complete. Building. Unit repaired.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Construction complete.
Affirmative.
Repairing. Building. On hold.
Yes, sir.
Unit
Affirmative.
prepared.
Reporting.
Cancel.
Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Vehicle
Affirmative.
reporting.
Comrade, affirmative. Acknowledged.
Awaiting
Construction
orders.
complete.
Dome fully charged.
Building.
Report agreed.
Insufficient
At
funds.
one. Very well. Affirmative. 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 Very well.
Waiting
Yes, sir.
Unit
order.
ready.
Affirmative. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Building.
Ready and wait. Agreed. Very well. Yes, sir. Reporting. At once. Very well. Agreed. Affirmative. At once. Very well. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Very well. Of course. At once. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Of course.
Comrade, acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Awaiting orders.
Construction complete.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Cannot deploy here.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Very well. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Awaiting
Yes,
orders.
affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost.
Yes, affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Waiting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Unit
Waiting
lost.
orders.
Building.
Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
lost.
Affirmative.
Repair.
Power on.
Unit
At
lost.
once.
Reporting.
Unit lost.
Acknowledged.
Structure.
Yes, sir.
sold.
Agreed. Very well. Very well.
Unit
Affirmative.
prepared.
Yes, sir. Reporting.
Unit lost.
At once.
Unit ready.
Vehicle reporting.
Unit lost. Building.
Report affirmative.
Waiting order.
Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Building.
Vehicle reporting. Reporting.
Waiting order. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Waiting order. Affirmative.
Construction
Awaiting
complete.
affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Comrade. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Insufficient
Acknowledged.
funds.
Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Vehicle reporting.
Building. Repairing. Building. Insufficient funds.
Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Report. Acknowledged. Report. Affirmative. Waiting order. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Repairing.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Insufficient
Affirmative.
funds.
Acknowledged.
Need a jump charge out. Extra crispy.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Comrade. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Power on. Doggy.
Insufficient
Affirmative.
funds.
Vehicle report. Affirmative.
Comrade. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Vehicle acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Comrade. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. 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 Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders.
Comrade, affirmative.
Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Comrade, affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Insufficient funds.
Affirmative. Yes, affirmative.
Naval
Acknowledged.
unit lost.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Awaiting orders. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Naval unit
Reporting.
lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Repair.
Acknowledged. Report. Affirmative.
Insufficient
Affirmative.
funds.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Repairing.
Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Acknowledged.
Naval unit lost.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit repaired.
Reporting. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Comrade. Comrade. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Vehicle affirmative.
Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Awaiting orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit
Yes, sir.
ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Waiting order.
New construction
Yes, sir.
optional.
Yes,
Acknowledged.
sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Repairing.
Reporting.
Yes, sir.
Comrade. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Vehicle reporting. Affirmative.
Training.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Training.
Awaiting orders. Very well.
Vehicle reporting. Vehicle reporting.
Yes, sir.
Unit ready.
Need a tower
Training.
on.
Ready and waiting. Agreed. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Reporting.
Training.
Agreed.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. At once. Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Agreed. Agreed. Affirmative. Of course. Of course. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Building.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Construction complete. Building.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Comrade.
Construction
Acknowledged.
complete.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Report acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Awaiting orders.
Waiting orders.
Vehicle reporting.
Report. Affirmative.
Training.
Awaiting orders.
Waiting acknowledged.
Yes, sir.
Comrade. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Unit
Acknowledged.
ready.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Waiting order. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Awaiting orders. Affirmative.
Unit ready. Training.
Reporting. Affirmative.
Reporting.
Reporting. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Training.
Affirmative.
Unit
Affirmative.
ready.
Affirmative.
Training. Unit ready.
Waiting order.
Training. Unit ready.
Affirmative. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Engineering. Affirmative.
Comrade. Awaiting orders.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Select target. Reinforcements have arrived. Building. Building. Construction complete. New construction
Yes, sir.
options.
Acknowledged.
Building. Unit ready.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Unit ready.
Acknowledged.
Construction complete. Building.
Comrade. Ready and waiting. Affirmative. Very well. Agreed.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative.
Construction
Acknowledged.
complete. Building.
Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Construction complete.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Comrade. Yes, sir. Very well. Agreed. Waiting
Yes, sir.
orders. Very well. Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Lost.
Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Waiting
Ready,
orders.
waiting.
Very well. At once. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Reporting. Acknowledged.
Report agreed. Affirmative. At once. Comrade. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Yes, very well. Affirmative. 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 Agreed. Comrade. Affirmative.
Report. Acknowledged. Awaiting
Acknowledged.
orders. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Awaiting
Affirmative.
orders.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Engineering. Affirmative.
Reporting. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Engineering. Affirmative.
Building.
Engineering. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Construction
Acknowledged.
options.
Yes, sir.
Construction
Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Building.
Affirmative. Report. Acknowledged.
Comrade. Affirmative.
Yes,
Ready
sir.
and
Affirmative.
waiting. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Construction complete. Our base is under attack.
Awaiting
Waiting
orders.
acknowledged. Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Engineering. Affirmative.
Yes, sir.
Waiting order. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Comrade. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Building.
Comrade. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Repairing.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Affirmative.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Repairing. Construction complete.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Building.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting.
Awaiting
Acknowledged.
orders.
Ready and waiting.
Yes, sir.
Unit
Course.
ready. Building.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Waiting affirmative. Waiting order.
Unit ready.
Comrade.
Building.
Acknowledged. Reporting. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Ready and
Yes,
waiting.
sir.
Unit ready. Repairing.
Comrade. Acknowledged.
Awaiting orders. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Unit
Affirmative.
prepared.
Acknowledged. Acknowledged.
Acknowledged.
Affirmative. Report affirmative. Acknowledged.
Acknowledged.
Unit lost.
Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Yes, sir. At once. Yes, sir.
Acknowledged. 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 Affirmative. Affirmative.
Training.
Yes, affirmative. Acknowledged. Waiting order. Affirmative.
Waiting or acknowledged.
Unit
Waiting
ready.
or acknowledged.
Training.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Affirmative.
Unit ready.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Vehicle reporting. Acknowledged.
At once. Yes, sir. Acknowledged. Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Yes, sir. Affirmative.
Acknowledged. Affirmative. Affirmative. At once.
Waiting
Affirmative.
order.
Yes, sir. Ready and waiting.
Yes, sir.
Waiting
Affirmative.
acknowledged.
Training.
Comrade.
Reporting. Affirmative. Yes, sir.
Construction
Affirmative.
options.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Agreed.
Our base is under attack.
Waiting
Unit
order.
ready.
Affirmative.
Yes,
Acknowledged.
affirmative.
No problem. Affirmative.
Unit
Acknowledged. Affirmative.
Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Building.
Waiting. Acknowledged.
Waiting order. Acknowledged.
Report acknowledged. Affirmative. Acknowledged.
Construction
Affirmative.
complete.
Affirmative.
Unit lost. Unit lost.
Yes, sir. Affirmative. Reporting. Affirmative.
Waiting. Acknowledged. Yes, sir. Acknowledged.
Mission accomplished.